Welcome to the Embrace Her Legacy podcast, the #1 personal development classroom for millennial women, hosted by Embrace Her Legacy founder and CEO, Maria I. Melendez. Ladies, get ready to evoke your feminine confidence and be inspired to master your relationship with yourself so you can fabulously live your legacy. If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. Don't forget to visit us at embraceherlegacy.com, where you can support our mission by making a donation of any amount or sign up to become part of our community of volunteers and supporters, the Embrace Her Legacy Collective. Our vision is for every woman and every girl to defeat her inner saboteur, master her relationship with self, and live out her legacy unapologetically. Enjoy the podcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Embrace Her Legacy podcast, the #1 personal development classroom for millennial women. Now, today's episode is really special, ladies, because first, I'm not by myself, but I got two brothers with me. I got two amazing Black men with me, and I'm really excited to have this conversation because I've wanted to have this conversation for a while. And I think, like, when I thought of two men to have this conversation, we're going to be talking about Black men and vulnerability. We're going to be talking about Black men and emotions and healing, and in a space that I've never seen that. It's really new. So I have with me someone who you may be familiar with. He was the first man to ever sit with me in this podcast. His name is Michel, at Young Executive producer, author, speaker extraordinaire, a shimmying man.
Hey.
Come on with a shimmy. I hate you. And then I have Rondell Anderson, founder of NSOG Productions. He's out here doing his thing as well, really taking the charge and being a safe space for Black men to talk about healing and trauma, and he's all about empowering us as Black women. I remember, Rondell, I think one day you posted something about being a safe space for Black women, and I was just in a place where I was like, I feel seen, because this entire COVID experience, I realized I was being so strong for my men in my life, but nobody was checking on me. And you were one of the men who were like, "Sis, you good?" And I was like, "Come on," Rondell.
Right.
So I appreciate that. So y'all introduce yourselves. Y'all want to tell people more about you, what you do?
Well, that was amazing intro right there. Not really much else I want to add to that, man. It's just been a blessing. It's just been a journey. And it just starts with obedience to God, man. I put God first in everything I do, and I do my best just to listen and obey, because there's a lot of challenging things that he asks of me, and I'm like, I'll do it. I don't know why you asked me to do it, but I'll do it. And every single time that I've listened, it's just been a huge blessing. My career really started a few years ago. I took a fast from drinking for a whole year, and then the idea for my book came about. It's called 365 Hip Hop Daily Motivational Quotes. Never wrote anything before, never kept a journal, released it, hit #1 on Amazon, and that was the launching pad of my career, really. I've been able to not only hit #1 on Amazon, but I've helped several authors do the same. I've been an author coach for the last few years, executive producer of the Youth Empowerment Show, and a few other things. But I'm just blessed to be here. So thank you.
Awesome. Great. So if we want to jump right in, I want to talk about why this episode was inspired. So in 2020 has been traumatic, to say the least, right? There's been a lot. It's been good and it's been bad. But in 2020, what started happening is that Black men around me started to confide their struggles with me around depression, around mental health. I remember there was one guy that I was dating, and I don't know if you are familiar with Insecure, right? And so there's a episode where this guy ghosts Issa, right? And she's taking it personal, and a similar situation happened to me. Well, I didn't take it personal. I was like, well, whatever, right? And he resurrected after a month or 2 months. He was like, to be honest, I'm sorry. I, kind of like disappeared. I was going through a depressive episode. Like, I struggled with clinical depression. And I knew it was hard for him to say that. And I was like, oh my goodness. And he was like, I hope, he was just like in that space of him being vulnerable. He was like, I hope I wasn't too open, and I hope we can still talk. I was like, absolutely. The fact that you told me that, and then my girlfriends, they were experiencing the same thing with men coming back and just saying, hey, like, I was struggling and I just didn't want to speak to, and this was new for us. And we were like, oh my God, like, what? Like, y'all are opening to me. So I made a promise to be a non-judgmental, safe space for Black men in that space, because what I noticed is that I hadn't always been that. Like, I take full responsibility that when a man was vulnerable for me, I was not a safe space. I would use that information to come out of my own hurt and weakness, right? If you come at me and you tell me what happened to you when you 5, when I'm mad, I'm like, that's why your mother left you. You know what I mean? I was really bad. I couldn't tolerate their vulnerability because I mistakenly would view it as a weakness. And it wasn't until I did research, when I really went through my personal healing journey, and I started learning about Brene Brown, who's this amazing author and clinical researcher around shame and vulnerability, I realized that because I couldn't tolerate vulnerability and shame within myself, I couldn't tolerate it with someone else. And I would use that information as an ammo out of my own low self-worth, out of my own issues. And I really started digging deep into this, and I said, oh my goodness. So moving forward, when a man tells me anything that I know is difficult, like he doesn't have a space, and I say, Black men, what do y'all speak? Like, because I got my girls. I can talk to my homegirls. I can go, we yap and we talk through our issues. I'm like, where do the Black men go? Like, where do the Black men go when y'all are struggling?
To the barbershop.
Yeah, I was just about to say, and let me tell you, so for those of y'all who don't know, and on the audio, I have short hair. I go to the barbershop. So I'm listening to the conversations, and they're not the best. So I'm like, where does that come from, right? And vulnerability has this thing of our rejection to it stems from this idea that it's a weakness, that it's sadness, it's a disappointment. But once I started doing research, I'm like, oh my God, vulnerability is like the birthplace of courage. Like, there's not a time you're not going to be, Carl, Rondell, y'all both have your own situations, right? Carl, you have Youth Empowerment Show. You have your author. Rondell, you've done these projects. Like, that's being vulnerable, because you subject to you putting stuff out there. It's like putting a baby out there. And I remember like speaking to a pastor once, and I remember he said, we were baptizing or christening my godson, and he was like, pretty much, Black women, let your boys be boys. Because at 2 years old, when a little boy gets hurt, he's 2, and he starts crying, the first thing you hear is, stop crying, be a man. So then oftentimes men now associate emotions with being weak, and it's a threat to their masculinity. Then y'all come up 30 years later, and I'm dating a broken 4-year-old trapped in a 35-year-old man's body. And it's frustrating. I'm trying to communicate, and I'm like, tell me what you feeling. And it's like, I don't even know how to feel that. So that's why I really wanted to talk about this conversation with 2 men who I respect. You get what I mean? And I know are going to keep it real with me. So I just wanted to ask, like, does any of this resonate with you? And so how do y'all deal with it?
Let the king go first.
I appreciate that. Well, first of all, back to you made a lot of great points. Back to the insecure episode. I wish they would have emphasized that moment a little bit more, because I think that went over many people's head, because ghosting is such a topic where it's, for the most part, no reason to ever do so. It's traumatic. It's popping in and out of people's lives. It's so terrible. But kudos to that scene, and kudos to the men you spoke with to be aware enough to know that I might have these little episodes. I'm not sure how to deal with them in the most healthy way, but I do know me being in close proximity to somebody I care about and how I might, and the person I might become isn't the best thing for that relationship. So through lack of better communication or different outlets, some people might feel the best thing they could do is separate themselves from the situation. Let me get my mind right. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna see you. At that point, it's then up to you if you let me in or not. And then the second part is like, as you mentioned, there are times where being on the receiving end of learning someone's trauma, learning someone's vulnerability, people, for whatever reason, use it as a weapon when they get an opportunity to. So if I'm a man and my last relationship, my sister, any person of the opposite sex I had a relationship with, and I shared with them that I've been violated in some sort of way, I've felt alone at times. I felt like I have abandonment issues. You know, my father did leave, and my mother did raise me, but I miss having him around. And then you say, yeah, that's why your father left you. That's why you're always alone. That's why they violated you. Me moving into my next relationship, I might have my guard up extra high because I can't share these things. But I also can't heal because someone I probably spend the most time with, we can't have this conversation. So these defense mechanisms I have, the way I hold things inwardly and react outwardly will be something that you can never really help me with because we can't discuss it because now I have trust issues on top of the trauma that I've already experienced. So it's twofold. It's healings on both parts that I'm able to, if I'm ready enough to date someone and have a relationship, I should be ready enough to have open conversations and let them know who I really am. And as a woman, if I meet someone if I'm a woman or a woman who meet a man, be ready to understand that everyone has been through something. And I need to have enough grace to be open to that conversation, to be respectful, to be trustworthy, to protect those secrets that he is sharing with me, and treat and support and love him the way that he needs.
Wow, yeah, that was spot on, bro. Oh man, you both said a lot. You know, I just hope I remember just the points to touch on, man. But I just came from, I spent the weekend in DC in Baltimore. So I love the DMV. It's like my second home. And in 30 minutes, talking to my man's at his crib, I learned more about him in 30 minutes than I did probably the last 10 years of our friendship. You know, and I've known this guy for about 10 years, maybe more, maybe 15, right? And I'm like, damn, bro, I didn't know all this. And then as we're discussing some real traumatic issues that he's gone through, he's like, bro, it's the first time I've ever even said that out loud.
Wow.
I'm like, damn. I'm like, bro, you got to release that, you know? But this is me from an evolving standpoint now. You know, before like this year really made it comfortable for Black men. That's why you've been seeing an emergence of comfort in the discomfort, if that makes sense, right? We've been it's being normalized to seek therapy now. It's being normalized to talk. It's being normalized to let us know that it's okay to not be okay. You know, and based on all the traumatic things that are happening now, we're starting to seek out those people that we can actually trust in our vulnerability. So in 30 minutes, in my evolved state, I'm able to have the realest conversation I've ever had with my man. Because normally, like you said, bro, we take it to the barbershop or we don't say anything at all. And we mask that pain, we mask that hurt in so many different ways. You know, he wanted to go to the club. That's his form of release, you know? I'm like, so we ended up going to the club. And I'm like, damn, I can't even talk to you now. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is so much going on. So it's like, we mask it, we hide it, we run from it so many different times. it's a blessing to find a safe space, someone that you trust. Like I've known him for over 10 years, and he's like, okay, I can express it, and I ask the right questions. I ask the right questions.
That's good. That's good. And can you like if I'm like, can you share more about that call? Like asking the right questions. And I don't want you to share his business, but
No, I would never do that. So I'm so used to being on all the time. I'm the motivational guy. People come to me. I'm the strong friend. I'm this guy. So it's somebody, hey, how you doing? Yo, I'm great, man. Everything's incredible. I'm hurting.
Right.
I'm hurting, but I have an instantaneous, automatic response. Everything good?
I can totally relate. I can totally relate. I get it.
So I ask, how you doing? They tell me. And my second question is, how you really feeling? That's when whenever I ask that, I see the walls come down. Oh, well, man, to be honest with you, that's just usually how the conversation goes. And that's how the conversation started with me and my friend. You know? So how you really doing?
Wow. And that's simple. How are you really feeling? I love that. Now, Carl, you said something, and me and my homegirl, because I was telling a few of my homegirls I was having this episode, everybody, my homegirls, they were ready. They're like, girl, and one thing we noticed, you hit it on the head, Carl, is that men, and there's research on this. I don't know if you've seen the research I did for this particular episode. Black men tend to drink it away, smoke it away, or gym it away. Like, I'm like, when I see a man at the gym, and me and my homegirl was talking about that, like, these dudes, they just go to the gym. And I'm like, what are you, so how do you challenge that energy? But I want to ask the both of y'all, is it hard for you to be vulnerable? And do you feel like your vulnerability gets in the way of your masculinity at all? And I'm quoting masculinity for people who...
What was the first part of that question? One more time.
Is it a challenge for you to be vulnerable?
So the ways that you mentioned are the most common ways, but we also sex it away.
That part, I forgot.
we gamble it away, smoke, drink, and we sometimes we get aggressive, and that anger might be directed towards you when that's not who hurt you in the first place. You understand? So there's a lot of ways that people deal with their internal issues. But if you go down to the root of it, you can almost always trace it back to something in a childhood, And because, as you mentioned earlier, we don't have these outlets, we don't know how to express ourselves. We're taught to man up, whatever that means. We're taught to not embrace, not to cry, not to be vulnerable. It is very difficult to find someone that you can confide in, because the moments that you do, there's always a fear of someone throwing it back in your face. I've done it, you've done it, we've all been there. Like, yo, I could put you on blast right now. And that allowing someone to have that type of power, control over you is a scary thing. And it crushes you all over again. We were not going to admit it. We just been like, F that, F her, F them, F everybody. And then you go lash out in some type of way, right? So it crushes our opportunity to let someone in again, okay? Well, that's one thing I was about to say. Now, from a perspective of wanting to help and wanting to heal, I share my vulnerability first. And that's how I help other people let their guard down. People are not going to just openly volunteer their deepest, darkest secrets. They're not going to openly do that. You have to create a safe space by allowing yourself to be vulnerable first. When I first got into motivational speaking, I'm a very private person. I don't want to tell people about my business. I don't want to talk about none of that stuff. But I realized I was surface leveling everything, and I couldn't connect with people, right? But it wasn't until I became vulnerable, like, yo, you know what? I was a big follower growing up, man. I didn't even make my own decisions. I let my man's, you know, whatever they wanted to do, that's what I was doing. You know, I was trying to be cool. I was trying to be. So when I expose myself, I unconsciously give other people permission to do the same.
Yeah, Carl, that was good. Thank you for being vulnerable. You asked, do I struggle with being vulnerable? Not, I don't think at all, but I have maybe this gift to where if I did it, I did it. You know, if I made a mistake, you know, I made a mistake. If I did wrong, I did wrong. It doesn't mean it was okay. But if I've learned and I've grown from it, then I'm fine with admitting, or someone sharing something about me that I might not be proud of today, that I wouldn't do today. It is what it is. Another thing is that society is not necessarily, for moments, very forgiving, right? We see it with celebrities. We find out something they did 6 years ago and we want to cancel them, we want to rip them, and we could debate on whether that's good or not. But if I was insensitive, if I was ignorant about it, if I lack knowledge and experience at something, then do we blame them for not knowing how to handle themselves when they were younger? Or do, like you said, you said a 35-year-old man with a 4-year-old mind. That's a very real thing. Like trauma compresses parts of our mind from maturing and progressing. So I'm 35 years old. I should know better, but I don't, because my upbringing and my childhood. But society isn't very forgiving. So it might be tough for me to meet you and say, okay, here's my mistakes and my regrets. I've learned since then. I'm in the process of healing and becoming a better man. Do you see me as less of a man because I'm not a finished product yet? So it's tough. It's tough to be vulnerable because the way society is. Does a woman want to date a man who dated every other girl on the block for some time because he was missing something within himself, so he tried to find it in other people? Does a woman want to date a guy who can't keep a job because he didn't finish school and eventually he wasn't able to maintain success financially or grow in the company? Society isn't super forgiving, or it's very pick and choose who gets to be forgiven, right? We forgive Kanye a million times, but someone else might be canceled after their first or second mistake. So it's a lot at play. It's a lot at play. But I think what is important for someone to feel okay with being vulnerable is to accept that people are going to make mistakes. This is where grace comes in, grace for yourself, grace for the people around you. Understand that we all make mistakes. My mistakes might not be plastered on Twitter, but if they was, we will be in the same box.
Awesome. Rondell, you hit it right, giving yourself grace. So recently, and me like trying to be this safe space, recently I was interacting with a dude, and, you know, we were hanging out, dating, whatever you want to call it, and he did something to piss me off. And any other time I would have canceled him, but I was going through a space where I needed to be gracious to myself, and I struggle in the area of receiving God's grace. So because I know I needed grace, I extended the grace to him. Does that make sense? I was like, you know what? Like, and if I would, but I was consciously doing it because I was like, okay, I want to give myself grace. I need to learn how to give myself grace. Let me give it to him. And he was flabbergasted, and he was just like, I was like, nah. And I told him why. I said, let me be clear. Like, this is not easy for me to do, but I knew that this guy, I knew that he had gone through some trauma in his life. And I knew that he was doing something to self-sabotage because of some worthiness issues. And I was like, I'm gonna let it slide this time because I want to be a safe space for you. And he was like, I get it, but I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I have a safe space as a Black man. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I was just like, and I've run into this where I'm trying to let men know, like, and I'll be vulnerable too. And it's like, no, like I can't, I just like, I don't even know how to let you be a safe space for me. And one thing I've noticed is like sometimes men just have shutdown spirit. Like it's just like this. I call it shutdown spirit. Like the emotions just stop, and you're like, "What's going on? Like, communicate with me how you feel." So, how can we as women show men that we you have our support? I'm willing to listen to you, and I'm not going to use this as a weapon for you later down the line.
I'll jump in this one. It's hard as hell.
Mm.
It's hard as hell.
Thank you for being honest.
Yeah, we're programmed in our young minds from people that we look up to, not our parents so much. We usually get this advice from the dudes, the OGs on the block. When we have an issue, in particular with women, it's not, yo, bro, you should take some time to heal. You should maybe seek therapy. I don't know. Like, that's a real issue. No, man, it's FBs get money. Like, that's our
Mhm.
philosophy. That's the bounce back. That's how we get back. F these chicks, get this money. So it's automatically shutting down our emotions. It's automatically making us seek um, a sexual outlet. You know, that's what real OGs do. That's what we do. F these bitches. I didn't even say that. It's just,
I know that's it's real. That's it. Don't ever. It's
I didn't even mean to say it.
it's real.
You said to the F.
Yeah, I didn't even.
But that's how it's real. That's how it is.
But that's the philosophy that's passed down to us by our OGs. You know, it's literally F these bitches, get this money, right? That's what we're programmed to do. And when you start that at a 14-year-old little puppy love heartbroken self,
Aw.
and that continues for 14 years. So half of my life, this is my philosophy: shut down my emotions, get as many women as I can, keep it moving. How am I going to trust you at 28, 29, 30, 35? I don't know what that looks like at this age, because my whole teenage and young adult years, I've been programmed with this philosophy. I got my little heart broken, and I ain't forgive nobody since.
I was just saying that men, y'all be mad at the kindergarten heartbreak. I'd be like, son, that was 30 years
Do that.
ago.
We do that, you
I'm
know.
like 30 years ago.
So,
So
so Alicia Keys is someone I can reference in this moment. In her song Diary, she said, "I won't tell your secrets. Just think of me as the pages in your diary.
mm,
Just think of me as that. Like, you're so vulnerable with your diary. I don't know if you guys ever journaled or anything like that, but you tell your journal everything because it's like you talking to you." And she's like, "Yo, I need you to just talk to me. I need you to be able to express yourself as if I am you. You know, I don't know what it takes for you to convey that to the man that you're dealing with or the men in your life, but that's the level of vulnerability that we want to get to. We want to know that you're a safe space, but I don't know what that looks like. You
mm.
know, I need you to have understanding, you know, because my philosophy has been jacked up. My childhood has been jacked up or whatever, right? I need you to have a level of understanding and patience and grace with me as I'm still learning to heal. Now, the challenge is, if the things that happen in that man's life makes him toxic for you,
That
that's not
part.
your job to heal him.
Say that again. Say it for the people in the back.
The
Okay.
things in his life made him toxic to you. It's not your job to heal him. That's the biggest problem. Oh, I stayed with him after he was beating my ass because of something that happened in his childhood. That doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it to yourself. You know, don't allow us as men to use that as an excuse. That's a reason why we should be doing better, not an excuse for us to put hands on you, to disrespect you, to hurt you. You know, so if that's the situation you're in, there's a thin line between helping and hurting when it comes to healing.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you said that because it is important as we're having this conversation to set some boundaries because not everyone could take this advice and apply it to their certain situation. So, right, let's consider, right, this isn't a chemical imbalance with the man. This isn't. We're sort of on the lines of mental illness or a mental trauma and PTSD, but and like you said, some women aren't professional like therapists. That's not the space you need to start with. The trauma might be associated with someone else, and they have yet to go back and have that conversation and get that closure from it. But under the boundaries of, right, this is a between the lines of this relationship is where the lines of this relationship is, how can I as a woman be supportive? So my man could be vulnerable with me. And it's very important. This is something that almost anyone can do if you practice, is realize that there are 3 different ways to respond in a certain conversation. Sometimes people want advice, that I'm gonna tell you what's going on and I want to know what you think I should do, what you think is right. Sometimes I want you to align with me, help me realize that my feelings, the way I feel is justified. Like I'm not tripping. Am I crazy? Like what's like? Is it just me or? And sometimes it's just to listen. Sometimes I just want to get these words out. If they're not good where they are inside of me, I just need to get them out on someone's ears. And you don't have to tell me what you think I should do. You don't have to tell me if I'm wrong or right. I just want you to listen. So there's 3 different ways, and I actually think giving advice is one of the overused of the 3. We very naturally listen to someone and want to tell them what we think they should do. That might not be what they're looking for. And there are cues and certain words that you can listen for to let you know in which way you should respond. It might be, what do you think I should do? Or what do you think? If they say a bunch of things and probably just end with, yeah, that's just what I've been thinking, that's what I'm going through. I hear you. Thanks for sharing that with me. Maybe could you tell me more about how long you felt this way, or what do you think is best for you next? It's not necessarily to start telling, especially if if I have struggles with ego, to then tell me once I've been vulnerable with you, well, you shouldn't think that way, or this is what I would do. I don't ask you that. Can you just like listen? Like, can you just like listen to me and like, hold me down? Unless I'd say something obviously left field, but let me know that you hear how I'm feeling. So that's something that any woman can do. She don't have to be a professional therapist. She don't have to have a degree in psychology. Everyone could do that.
Awesome. I was over here taking all the notes.
I was like,
let
me plug this in my phone.
I was taking all the notes. I'm like, did y'all hear that? Because I do that. I'm like, and especially, and I think, Carl, maybe you can understand because we're the motivational speakers, right? So I always feel the pressure to have advice.
Yep.
And sometimes sis don't got it. I'm like, well, all I know I'm like, well, that is a job for Jesus because I can't fix that, right? Like, but then I feel this pressure to have advice, and that space of just being a space to listen. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm about to be better. I'm about to be a whole lot better. Now, Rondell, you kind of went and I think, Carl, you also started to touch on mental health. So I want to like talk about mental health in the space of, our wonderful Black men. So let's go into some research stats that I found. Nearly 3,000 suicides annually among African Americans, and 80% of those are Black men. Survey of African Americans show that 63% believe that depression is a sign of weakness. Black males are more likely to be misdiagnosed with schizophrenia or other mental illness than any other race. Another research article shows that research showed that many African American men believe that being a real man, quote unquote, means to provide for your family, achieve respect for others, attain financial success, be tough, and be self-sufficient. Revealed that many African men embrace tough guy syndrome as a source of self-esteem and self-respect. right? And then African American with depressing systems, okay, often misdiagnosed. And there's just all these stats about the effects of misdiagnosis. Now, I want to ask you, do any of these stats surprise you? One. And two, let's talk about you identifying what being a real man, what does that mean for you specifically?
Mm-hmm.
Let me start off.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I mean, the stats, I can't say the stats surprise me because we are living in such an imperfect world where, right, we look at all the great things in this country and the great things about technology and the progress we have made as a country, Western civilization, and we don't shed as much light on all the struggles that many people go through. Right. I think I started off by saying like everyone has been through something. So we sort of normalize it that, right, trauma is just something that we going to have to deal with. That pain or that loss or that tragedy is something that we just going to have to deal with. And since we're all busy, right, I live in New York, since we're all busy, we have to work, we got to move at this pace, right? We have to make enough money just to get by, that we very seldomly slow down and say, is this normal? Is this okay? Right. We were talking about the pace in New York. Like we move at such speed. We so quick to say, how you doing? I'm good. That we just pass and compress and suppress these feelings and emotions, that we don't realize that that pace, that work, that that lack of community, right? The lack of priority of taking care of ourselves physically and emotionally, that by the time that we might realize something, is a lot of damage that has been done. And some people, like suicide isn't necessarily, sorry to get graphic, like maybe, jumping off a building, right? Suicide might be poor eating decisions. It might be a choice in a drug, which slowly cuts the years off of our life. And some people might end it with some pills or cutting themselves. I've spoken with those people, and those people have just fell into this sort of culture within themselves that's unhealthy and that's negative. And it gets to a point where everyone is so busy, like no one sees all that I'm going through. Y'all watch Lovecraft Country?
Yeah.
You didn't see it? There's an episode called where Dee, the little girl, she got cursed, right? And everyone else is so busy dealing with what they going through, they don't see her running from something this whole time.
The whole time.
Right. She was placed, it's like some magic and stuff. She was placed on a curse where if she tried to say what she was running from, she would choke up. So she couldn't tell anyone what she was going through. And on the show, she lost her father died, her mother went missing. Her whole world is falling down around her, and everyone else is dealing with their own problems and issues. No one can pay attention to her. And that's what it is with a lot of people walking around nowadays. No one could slow down enough to give you that grace, to give you that help, to be there for you. So sometimes people make a decision to, or sometimes people are led to make a decision to, take their own life. And it's sad, and it's something that this conversation might help a lot of people with.
Right. That's real. There's a lot of things that don't surprise me in any of those stats that you read. And as I look back on my childhood, we've been getting misdiagnosed since we were kids. That leads to the grown man misdiagnosis, right? Because you're not advancing your thinking. You have ADHD.
Yep.
No, you're not. You can't sit still for 8 hours like adults do at work. You need some type of medication, a drug. You're giving these kids drugs. And you're telling them drugs is how you deal with whatever you got.
Yep.
You got a problem, and this is how you solve it. So what you think is going to happen when we become adults? We still are looking for those drugs to solve our problems. Your drug might not even necessarily be a physical pill. It could be you being aggressive. It could be you being, you could be gambling. You could be, sexing and doing all these things. Like, you find your drug, your vice in something. But we're taught that at an early age. I was because my dad tutored me when I was young. I was always in the advanced classes. You're telling all the kids from my neighborhood, though, that they are not advanced. Y'all in the third, fourth, and special ed classes. You're programming them to believe that they're inadequate. And to fill the void of their inadequacy, you need to be on some type of drugs. Yeah. It leads to a lot. Exactly. And as men who have been told they're inadequate from childhood, and we listen to the music, we watch the movies, we pay attention to what's going on in society, everyone makes us feel inadequate, especially if you ain't getting no money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yo, so what Kanye said, they made us hate ourselves and love they wealth. That's why the shorties holler, where the
ball is that?
So you want to be the baller.
Right.
There's pressure on that. I had a friend of mine, when I was younger, he took his own life. He took his own life. And I believe it had a lot to do with money. It had a lot to do with money and the feeling of inadequacy when he could no longer provide. His nickname had money in it. So we always knew him to be the guy with the bread. Mm-hmm. So when he loses his job, when he loses his status, when he loses his family, when he's dealing with dark
issues,
he doesn't know what to do with that. And back then we weren't calling it depression. If you went to see a therapist, you're crazy. Mm-hmm. We don't want nothing to do with that.
Right.
So we didn't know how to handle that, and he didn't know how to handle that, and he ended up taking his own life. So there's a lot of pressure. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I have a friend who did the same thing a couple of years ago. Hood dude got money, and then unfortunately, he ended up in jail. When he came home, I guess the pressure of, because he didn't want to go back to jail. So now you got to get a normal job, right? And now you got mouths to feed and kids to feed. And now you're under pressure with I don't know how much, he was making, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't what he was getting, so you used to a certain lifestyle. Now that has to change. And then let's add in the lack of education, the lack of resources. Now you're a convicted, there's all of that played in one day. And we couldn't believe it. We were just like, what? Who? No, you're lying. So I think finances really does, and y'all skipped over my being a real man question. So I'm going to turn it back.
My bad. Oh,
I got it. Because you hit it on the head. With finances, men are taught that your identity is rooted in being able to protect and provide. And I'm not going to front. If you're going to be my man, you got to be able to do both, right? What happens when you feel like you cannot do those things? Because I've seen men, and this is younger Maria, ugly comes out. I tell men, I'm like, you want to see how ugly a man can be? Like, see who he is when he feels like he cannot protect or provide for you. Like, his ugly will come out. So I want to talk, like, how do y'all feel if y'all in a situation where you can't do that? And does that define being a real man for you, being able to protect and provide?
I gotta jump in this one.
Go, Carl.
The level of security you need to have in yourself has to be at an all-time high for you to be able to handle a relationship where you cannot provide as a man, right? It hurts to your core when you know you want to help your lady and you can't. And she look good. If that's your queen, if you find great values in her, other men do too. There's dudes with more money than you sliding in her DMs right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's dudes that look better than you that could provide her the lifestyle that you wish you could give her. So if you are not emotionally secure, if you're not mentally stable, if you're not confident in yourself, you will mistreat that woman because of your insecurities. Go ahead.
No, I was just like, that's literally, and Carl, you met me post breakup. That's what happened in my previous relationship. And I didn't know because I was, holding it down financially, and I was, living out my purpose. And when I found out about the infidelity and the level of infidelity out there, and he verbatim said, I knew I could not provide for you. I felt like shit about myself. And the only thing I knew I was good at was getting girls and getting women and sleeping with women. And he was jealous, resentful, and I don't know. And I was like his insecurity came out in him hurting me, and deciding that the only way you could deal with your stuff is by going to sleep with other women. And I'm over here like, what's up? So Rondell, I want you to jump in, Rondell. Like, jump in, Rondell. As far as
you want to get something out?
You feel out of control. I did. You saw it. You feel out of control. And you gotta watch the men that want to be in control of everything. Because if they can't control the amount of money you make, they're going to try to control your emotions. They're gonna try to sabotage your success because you're getting too high up there. Because you don't need me for anything. So I gotta try to control you in some way because you don't need me. You understand? So you gotta watch those type of those men because they will sabotage your success, especially if they're not secure in themselves. All right,
So, right, the definition of a man, it does have a lot to do with work, right? The elementary breakdown is like money is the outcome of success, right? Success is the outcome of work. And I believe, right, it is ingrained in our DNA as a man to work, right? Right. God made the earth, he made the land, he made the water, he made the animals, he made Adam. He woke Adam up, what he told Adam to do, go tend to the animals. He put him to work immediately.
Gave him a job. My pastor always said Adam had a job before he had a wife.
Right. He put him to work immediately. Now, there wasn't money back then. Right. Because then money came, again, it's money, success, usually money, success, work. You put the work in, you get successful, you make money. So we're forgetting, right, where that premise has come from. Now it's all about money, right? And work doesn't have to necessarily equate to money, right? Being able to provide is not just financially. It could be resourcefulness. It could be good energy. It could be to be very loving. That's how you could protect and provide for a woman as well. It's lots of people who you might make a whole lot of money. You work 12 hours a day. You come home, you can't even hug and kiss your wife because you done used up all your energy smiling for people at the job or on the camera. When you get home, you don't smile no more. When you get home, you turn the TV on, you go straight to bed. So what use of it is to make all that money and not have a happy home. So it's just some confusion, and it's a lack of God in our works that make us forget money isn't the only way to protect and provide. But you lose that, right? You lose tending. You feel like work is just to get a check, and we have to use our hands. We use less of our minds, less of our hearts, less of our creativity. And then we think, if I don't make money, I'm less of a man. Where work is, in so many facets, more than just about making money. So work is still extremely important, but money necessarily isn't the most important thing. There's lots of people who make a lot of money don't know what to do with it. They'll lose it. More money means more debt for some people. So of course I think it is okay for a woman to meet a man and expect him to be at a certain place financially, but that's because women enjoy security. So does a man. Like, I want to know that I'm gonna have a place to live. I want to know that I'm gonna have a means to get food, to travel, to have clean clothes on my back, to have running water. Work is very important, but we have to remember the premise. We have to remember what God told us to do, right, with our hands and with our minds and with our hearts. And that's where the confusion lies.
That's amazing. I think like one thing that I pray over the men in my life, wherever you are, I always ask, Lord, may his identity, his sense of approval, his meaning, and his purpose be found in you alone. Because I, as a woman, also I put my self-worth in other things, income and what I was able to do. And it wasn't relationships, whatever, status. And when those things got stripped of me, I was just me and the Lord. And the Lord was like, now who are you? And I didn't know who I was. And it was when I had to seek my identity in him alone. And I was like, okay, so if anything of these things get stripped, I can still, like you said, be confident and be secure because I know my identity is rooted in being his daughter. So now as I date and now when I'm looking, I'm like, because, and I guess that's some stuff from my past. I'm like, I don't ever want to deal with a man the minute something goes on, or I'm making more money than you, or something happens. Now your insecurity is making you behave in a manner that's unhealthy to me. I like, Rondell, you hit it, like God. Like, I need you to remember what God says about you. I need you to remember who you are as God's son first. So that then all that other stuff, God, because you never know what can happen in a season. You can lose your job. COVID has taught us that nothing is guaranteed. So if I meet you in a season where you got your money, and everything's good, and I'm like, and then something like a COVID and you lose a job, and now you out here. You know, I've had people in my circle where this has happened, and their men have gotten abusive. Alcoholism has shown up, and I'm like, wow, so the ugly can really come out in a man. And that's why I'm really big on, where does your identity lie as a man? And that's what I want to ask the two of you. What is your, I guess the question I'm saying, how do you identify your manhood? Like, where does that come from? What influences how you see yourself as a man?
Yeah, a lot of self-awareness, right? Knowing who and what I come from. Right, I didn't mention it at the beginning, but right, the biggest part to me is my savior, and then the second is I'm my mother's son, and right, the amazing things that she has done for me, I take it as a responsibility to ensure that my place in the community, right, the people I'm involved with, the spaces I touch, the tweets I'm able to send out, or the posts I'm able to make, that they are aligned with what she has taught me, what God wants from me, to create safe spaces for the children I'll have one day to grow up in and be happy, for the friends I have, for the businesses I touch, for in any facet of it. So it's self-awareness to know that what defines me is from the Most High. Mm-hmm. It's from someone who's gonna love me no matter what I do, and all he asks for in return is, all right, a changed heart, that I repent, that I ask for forgiveness, and anything with work, right? With work, anything I need or require or dream of, I can ultimately have. It has to just be embedded with his love, his purpose for me, and everything else. I mean, what defines a man in a society is going to change probably every 100 years, but God's word hasn't changed since the beginning of time. His word hasn't changed since the beginning of time, and if I'm aware of that, if I can express that, if I can walk in that light, I'll be good.
Love it, man.
I love it.
You have to know who you are, and you have to know whose you are.
Amen.
You are a queen or a king in God's kingdom. You are a son of the Most High, right?
Amen.
That's the most important thing. But you also have to understand your own greatness. The words I am are so important. The words I am are so important. It connects you directly to infinite wisdom, infinite intelligence, the Most High God. And it also connects you to your ancestors, your bloodline. So once you can answer the question, who are you? That's how you can define that.
Awesome. Come on with a word. Come on. We took it to the scripture. All right now. All right. So I want to talk to y'all. Like, so what do y'all do on them days where it's just a bad day? Like, what do you do when you're going through the motions? Like, do y'all call, I always call one of my besties, I pray, there's things that I do. What do y'all do when y'all having a bad day and you're going through your emotions? How do you deal with it?
That goes back to the question, who motivates the motivator, right? Who motivates the motivator? Sometimes I get so used to pouring into other people that there'll be sometimes I forget to refill my own cup. I have those days. I have those moments. I have that little seed of doubt creeps in and becomes a whole root. And now it's infested in my mind, a week before my 35th birthday, I was feeling inadequate, and I just want to share this with you and be vulnerable. I was like, man, I'm about to be 35. I thought I'd be a millionaire. I thought I would be a husband. I thought I would be a father. I thought I would be in my own mansion.
Come on the cover of Forbes. What are you
cover of Forbes? Like, what's up? You ain't even close to none of those things right now.
Not even.
I started feeling horrible, but because I realized, and my sister's my best friend, so that's somebody I always call on, and I can be vulnerable with her. She created a safe space for me, but she made me realize, yo, Carl, you're thinking in lack right now.
Aww.
You're thinking in lack, and when you are a child of God, we don't operate in lack. We operate out of abundance.
Come on.
So I needed that jolt of energy, and I had to have someone else remind me who I am. And then I started operating not out of lack, but out of an attitude of gratitude. So my theme for the weekend was like, yo, I know 2020 has been crazy, but what's some of the highlights for you? We talk a lot about the lowlights, and when we focus on those things, we receive more of those things. But when you focus on the things that you're grateful for, the things that you have a lot of gratitude about, the things that have been highlights for you, it starts to get you out of that funk. So refuel, reconnect with God. Have that serious, like, let Him pour into you to refill your cup. Let Him fill you up. I love listening to motivational audio, motivational books. I love talking to friends that can, just boost me up. So a lot of different things.
What about
we have to be deliberate and open in setting ourselves up for the future, right? And doesn't necessarily mean how much money we make, where we'll be at in a career, but where we spend our most time, or who we spend the most time with, has to be deliberate, right? There might be some 10-year-old friendships that don't serve us anymore. We spend 3 days a week, 6 hours a day communicating with this person, and like you said, right, your cup runs empty, and it might not be deliberate on their part, or it might be. But I have had to, over the last few years, gracefully end some friendships. I've had to gracefully end some romantic relationships. I've had to invest in my home and my space. I had to be mindful of the music I listen to, the podcasts I listen to, the content I absorb, and without having to put my head down and work for 6 months and go through stress and go through little spaces of trauma, to then take a vacation for a week to justify the 6 months of stress I went through, or to work for the weekend to drink and feel better, right? If this is us with a full cup, right, or this is us balanced, and we go through stress and trauma, and the babies is crying, and we being disrespected at work,
Right.
and school is tough. And we just like, yo, let me just hold on for like 6 months to a year. Sometimes that mindset is okay. But let me hold on for 6 months so I can take this vacation and think it's gonna get me back here. That vacation might get me back here. And I'm going back to work and back to school. So if we could go through those stresses and we could do things daily, it don't gotta be a vacation, right? You take a vacation to escape reality. You can escape reality through prayer for 10 minutes. You can escape reality through meditation for 10 minutes. You can escape reality through yoga. Go to YouTube, type in relaxing yoga, and you're there. But what I do personally is, we spoke about this earlier, I wake up 2 hours early before I got to do anything else. And every single day, I have 2 cats. That's why you see me looking around, because they're running around. I let them out, feed them, get them some water. They cool. I throw on some music. I make my coffee every single day. There's some good vibes. I make me a nice breakfast. Whatever I deal with for the rest of the day, I have decided my energy for the day already.
Wow.
I go outside, they tripping on the train, they acting up on the block. Luther already got me straight in the morning.
Not Luther.
Luther got me straight in the morning. So it don't even matter once I walk out. Now, I might be gifted with perseverance wise or emotionally wise, but I promise if people didn't go to sleep late, because even they've been working at their goals, working at their dreams, they ain't go to sleep late, get 4 hours of sleep, they run, grab a bagel from the store and a coffee, right? You're malnourished. You didn't sleep well, you're malnourished, you immediately woke up, check your work email, got to work, you immediately start serving other people. Of course you're running on empty.
Right.
Of course you're on empty. And that pattern is unhealthy. So create daily habits to fill your own cup when you have to. Invest in relationships and people that's gonna pour into your own cup. And you'll be straight.
Come on, Rondell. And let me tell y'all, Rondell posts every day this cup of coffee. Like,
this is facts. Every single day.
Every day. And let me tell y'all, so we are recording this at the crack of dawn. Like, it's really not the crack of dawn, but like,
it's not the crack of dawn.
And I was like, it's early in the morning. I was like, Rondell, you want to do this early morning? He was like, I've been up. I was like, so you part of the early morning ministry. That's not my gift. You know what I mean? So like, I love it that's what you do and you're consistent with it. So I have one final question because I want to be respectful of your time. If you could speak to your 5-year-old self, what would you tell to the little boy that still lives inside of you? Carl, why are you doing on your face? You like
that question right there is my reason why.
Oh, come on with a reason why.
Question right there. It's so tough because I'm like, now I gotta show it to you. My mother found this old picture of me when I was in elementary school, and I actually posted it for my birthday. And I was like, Dad, what would I tell him? So I don't know if you can see this, but this is, hold on.
I see it. Oh, yeah.
I said, man, look at how innocent this kid was. What would I tell him? What would I tell him? And there's a lot of things I would tell, my younger self, 5-year-old self.
5. Let's go back to the
that's wow. Okay. All you really need is love. Show love. And don't let anyone's lack of love change who you are. That's what I would say.
I love it. What about you, Rondell?
I don't even remember when I was 5, but yeah, I mean, I would say, no dream is too big. No dream is too big. Don't put an age limit on your goals. Don't feel like your boundaries are too strict. Right? You set your boundaries high. You work to make sure you are deserving of it, and you can justify it. But yeah, don't put a ceiling on your dreams. No, I would have never thought Maybe I did this when I was 5, right? I grew up in Brooklyn. People put the mattress out next to the dumpster. We used to jump on the mattress. Now, Lord knows we probably shouldn't be alive, whatever was on that mattress. But that same kid jumping on the mattress was the same kid who traveled the country doing conferences with 500-600 people, booking speakers who cost thousands and thousands of dollars. I would have never said this kid is going to end up doing this. Yeah, don't put it. No dream is too big.
No dream is
too big.
No dream is too big. I love that. Can I just say thank you? Y'all just warm my heart. Y'all just warm my spirit. Like, I'm over here. You just poured into me. And I am talk about gratitude. Like, I just want to take a moment to express my gratitude. I feel like thank you is not even enough right now. Like, y'all really poured all the way into me. And I just want to thank you for being vulnerable and sharing with our audience, and for y'all being some dope men. I'm like, I know some pretty dope Black men, and thank you for inviting me into your spaces. Thank you for doing this podcast. Like, I am so grateful. So I want to know, if the people want to support you, where do they follow you? What projects do you got coming up? What's your social media handles, all that? Share with the people, share with the good people.
Yeah, you can find me Twitter, Instagram, Mr. Anderson, Mr.and.er.son. If you want to support me, however this will sound like, be a good person, right? With 7 degrees separated in some form of manner. So be a good person, spread good energy, love, share grace, and down the line, in some way, shape, or form, it will impact me and the people I love. I do have some amazing projects coming up, but I'm a little superstitious on saying it before it's ready. So I won't take this opportunity to share those things. But yeah, if you follow me, you'll see it when I announce it.
That's real. That's real. So one more time, what's the IG?
Oh, Mr. Mr.and.er.son.
Okay, I'm about to jump in there right now. All right, so so for me, everything is at Young Executive, YOUNGEXEKUTIVE. The K is there for King, the K is there for Kappa, the K is there for Kaizen, which means continuous achievement, continuous improvement. Young Executive with a K. You can find me there. My show for the youth is at Youth Empowerment Show on IG. If you're looking to write a book, publish, and become a best-selling author, you can find me at Write a Legacy. Those are the biggest projects that I have. Well, there's a lot of projects that I have coming up, and you're going to see more of that very, very soon if you follow me. I have an app coming out. I just signed for a communication center where we'll be helping a lot of people. So those details will be revealed pretty soon. So you get the exclusive. A lot of things coming up. So just follow me at Young Executive and you'll pretty much see everything.
Awesome. So y'all heard that at Mr. Anderson. I know it's at mr.an.e. The and.er.son. Okay, and at Young Executive, just the K replaces the C and the Young Executive for King and for Kappa, and for what was the last one?
Kaizen is Japanese for continuous improvement.
Come on with it, Japanese.
Always evolving.
And thank you, Maria, for having us. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for holding this space. I think there are many platforms for Black men to share themselves. They're not as commercial, so it might be hard to find them, but the more people who do it, the more Black men will have access to things like this. So thank you.
Awesome.
You're amazing. You've been doing this for a while now. You've been super consistent. You've helped so many young queens come up. You're doing a lot of healing within yourself and within others. So you're helping to change the world. So I just want to tell you, I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. I feel a little special. Thank Thank you to my wonderful kings who just really came in and really blessed us all with their presence. Now, if you like this podcast, I'm gonna need you to do me a favor and subscribe. Subscribe, share it with your family, share it with your friends, share it with maybe a Black man who, needed to hear something that we said today. Maybe it's a son, a brother, a significant other. Share it, and maybe have that open conversation after him listening to the podcast. So until next time, ladies, and I know there's some gentlemen out there listening, always be a woman who embraces her legacy.
Oh.
Bye.
Love y'all. Peace.
Love y'all. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to the Embrace Her Legacy podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please make sure to subscribe and visit embraceherlegacy.com to make a donation or sign up to become a part of our community of volunteers and supporters, the Embrace Her Legacy Collective. Make sure you follow us at Embrace Her Legacy to get daily inspiration and join our movement. Thank you for listening, and remember, you're enough, you're worthy, and you're a phenomenal woman who embraces her legacy.